What's up, Go Squad, Gen 1 fam? Is there like an actual name for the family? Is it Gen 1? Is it Go Squad?
Go Squad,
It's Go Squad?
Go Squad.
Whatever y'all want to be called. Welcome back, beautiful people. I have a very, very exciting conversation today. We're going to be talking about toxic masculinity.
Yes, sir.
Dun, dun, dun.
Excuse me.
For those of y'all that doesn't know what toxic masculinity is, it's basically like these masculine traits or ideologies that we put on ourselves in order to be considered manly that are actually very hurtful to our emotional well-being, sometimes spiritual well-being, and even physical well-being. So I'm excited to get into it. First question I have, how has toxic masculinity played a role in how you operate, or has it ever tainted the way that you see yourself?
For some reason, I've always kind of seen it and like saw what it was. Like I could tell that, you know, when men get around each other, everybody does this and you talk a certain way. And for some reason, like I never identified with that. I would see it for what it was. And if anything, I kind of shrink back. But I could kind of see that as like pride a lot of times, or it just seemed like a waste of time. Like, I don't know why I'm trying to show you that I got bigger muscles than you or try and out tough you. That's not something I always felt like I really fell into the trap of. Like I had to show other people how manly I was, but I always felt kind of like, I always felt it there, you know, like with like my dad or like people I grew up around. Like you can tell, you know, this makes you a man or this doesn't make you a man. So I always kind of saw that and felt that. So yeah.
Yeah, now for me, the thing that it affected me because I was told that men shouldn't be emotional, you know? And it's like, if you show emotion that you're sad or you're crying, or if you have any type of thing that's like hard exterior, if it's not a hard exterior or life of the party type of thing, like you soft,
Right.
you know? And because I struggled with trying to mask my emotion and my true personality, I was trying to be this for the guys and be this to attract this type of girl.
Right.
It messed me up, you know? And the thing that I was trying to hide and mask turned into a unhealthy storage of things that I needed to naturally release. And it came out in anger. It came out in being a very promiscuous brother. You know, I was out here in the streets, you know what I'm saying? It came out in me wasting a lot of money, you know, dating, trying to show that I look this way, but I'm not doing that, you know? And now I know I got to pay rent. I'm out here going out to eat with just random girls because I'm like, all right, that's what you're supposed to do when you get paid on Friday. That's what the culture is telling me to do. I have to waste my money on someone I have no intention on being serious with.
Right.
You know?
You pretty much said it, man. I would say, I think the whole idea around masculinity is like us feeling like we have to put on an image of a man versus just being manly, and however that, you know, is expressed through our personal, what am I saying?
No, you're good.
You know,
That's good,
and however that manifests the way that we were created. So there's no like staple man. There obviously, yes, do I think that, you know, men should be able to provide, sure, but like there are other ways that happens. It's not always just money. Sometimes you have to provide wisdom, love, that kind of thing. So, you know, when you look at like let's take like a movie, and you always see like the man, the father, the matriarch. You know, he's usually probably a buff guy, you know, very just an outstanding gentleman. And so we see that and think, oh, that's obviously what it has to be.
That's the standard.
So yeah, you pretty much just find yourself like putting on this shell versus like actually being a manly person. And you said something as well, like you said something about like almost comparing yourself to other guys and it being like a competition, like who's manlier. And then you also said like having to like show off things to like attract like women and stuff like that. But I think the problem is we can't even see necessarily like what women want. So this man that we think we have to be in order to impress or attract women may not even be what they're looking for.
Exactly.
So I want to ask the girls, and this is not even on here, but like, what do you think, or like what is a man to you guys, and like what do you look for? I mean, obviously you found your man. Praise the Lord.
Looks like
God.
Look like that right there.
Look like that. He looks like he got a green and white shirt on. But yeah, like or before, you know, you met Rick, like what were those things that, you know, you thought like made a man a man?
Yeah.
Do you want to go or do you want me to go? You go first. You go first.
Wait, repeat the question one more time because I had something.
We try to put on this shell of being men because we think that, you know, we know what you guys are looking for in a man, but oftentimes we really don't know. So what do you look for, like, or like what makes a man to you?
You know what's crazy too? I've had to unlearn what I thought, because I think that even as a female, I think that, and I, you know, my dad is a very masculine man, and so, and a lot of the men in my family are extremely like masculine, very like tough guy, like
stuff,
what
That
masculine, just like that, what masculine like is like to society, like a lot of them are that. So I think that I've been having to unlearn what I consider manly, because also like, I think that there's so many different ways that a man can be manly, and it doesn't just look like that. It doesn't just look, you know what I mean? Like, so I think for me, I'm in a process of just like, unlearning that, like, and seeing other things as manly, like, because, you know, like to society, well, to some, like vulnerability, like men being vulnerable is not considered manly. Men showing emotions, men crying is not considered manly. And so I think for a long time, I would kind of look at it like that too. But as I've learned, like, for one, that's so not healthy. Like like toxic masculinity, it is toxic. It is. It is just that, you know? So I'm in a space of like, like understanding like there's so many different ways a man can be a man, and it doesn't just mean the provider either.
Right.
And this and that too. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what the person needs. You know what I mean? Like they might be like, I don't want him to provide, you know, financially, but I want him to provide emotionally. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like so kind of like what you said. Like it really, really depends on what that person needs. You know, so that's, I don't know if I really answered the question.
No,
but,
that's it.
Oh, yes, you did. One of the things that you said was like, can they lead? That's something that I would ask myself all the time. With my exes, they would be leaders in their groups, but it was so toxic. They didn't have accountability, which was the big thing that was missing. And when he's leading me in such a gentle way that I wasn't receiving before, that if he were to come at me any other way, it would be too aggressive. And I've been around such toxic masculinity that when I sense it a little bit, I'm like, right there, that little tone right there. But he does it in such a gentle way. So I think there needs to be a safe balance of someone that can lead you, but someone that can also really like talk to you in a soft way.
Yeah. Because it's not controlling. I think sometimes people see it as like control, super dominant. Like, no, like a lot of us women, we don't want that. We don't want you to just be like, and you just do this. And
it's condescending.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, like at the end of the day, yes, I do think, you know, the man should be the head of the household. I do think that the man should lead. But I also am like, this is a partnership. Like we're in it together. You know what I mean? So it's not just, and you do this and you sit there and clean and you do the, you know what I mean? Unless they want to do that, then sure, you know, then sure. But like, it's not a controlling, dominating thing. So I liked how you pointed out that Rick leads, but he's gentle with it. Like I think that is so beautiful and admirable.
Oh, and let me say this. I was not always gentle with the right motive. You feel what I'm saying? Not here, right? But there were moments where I was dating and I knew that because I have a gift of being sensitive to people's emotions, being empathic, I would utilize that to leverage whatever I wanted. So that's manipulation. That's another form of toxic masculinity, right? I would say, oh, let me cater to her whatever. You know, I know that she's had a hard day. Let me woo her. You know what I'm saying? To be real, I wanted to have sex. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to spend time, but it was out of a selfish ambition. I was lonely. You know, I ain't have nothing going on today, but I don't know if at that time and moment I would be there for them in the same way they were there for me. So I had to learn that was unhealthy. You know, like I can't manipulate somebody to spend time with me. I had to stop manipulating women to have sex with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's trash. That is toxic as crap. Like, it's so bad. Yeah. Because you're asking someone to give you you're asking a woman to give you something that's so like special, so sacred, so valued to them. And when they give it to you, they expect that it's going to be taken care of properly. Like their heart. I'm talking more than just sex. I'm talking heart. When they give you access to their heart, and when you have sex, you have soul connection. And when you do that, you don't steward that right. You create tears and you create rifts in their soul, in their spirit. And now they look at you could have been the person that took their virginity, and now they go say, this is how I was treated the first time I gave my heart to somebody. And now I'm going to accept what you've done to me to manipulate me, to put me in a space to make me look less than, just so I feel some type of love, because you gave me love in a way that was familiar to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, that's big, man. I was also gonna ask, like, what is it about men that we can have a motive like that and, you know, get what we need? I'm not gonna get into no details.
You don't have to.
And it not affect us the way that it affects women. Like, I've always tried to understand, and I mean, there's, you know, all types of science behind, like, you know, the emotional aspects of women versus men, but like, why is it so easier for us to just do that, whop the bam, and walk away, versus like it means something for y'all? And I mean, it in the right, you know, in a healthy way, it should mean something to men and women.
Right.
But like, what is the difference between the two?
Yeah,
I would just go straight to the emotions argument if I had to think of it off the top of my head, because I've heard women say the same thing too, though. Like it just like, it doesn't mean anything to you, it doesn't mean anything to me. I think it just depends on like, men aren't always guided or taught how to share their emotions, how to access their emotions when they're younger. So maybe we come into it a little bit more, a little bit worse off emotionally.
Right.
So we could just start going there, and maybe women are a little better in the beginning with their emotions. But I think anybody can get to that place where you can be emotionally shut off and disconnected in that spot. Because I think both sides would argue that, because then there's men who are good with their emotions too, who would also be like, well, it does mean something to me as well. So yeah, maybe.
So I wonder, you think like the default standard for men is to like be emotionally like very timid and like to not really embrace them? Because I mean, like, I feel like what you said is so true. Like most men are already shut off emotionally. So like, sex is just sex. It's not this beautiful intertwining like it was supposed to be. So that's really interesting, because another question I have is, why do you think it's harder for men to be vulnerable or show sensitivity and emotion versus like for women? Yeah. Is it because we're spending so much time like trying to put on this manly performance that we don't even have time to address emotion? Because, you know, we got to compare. We got to be the top dog. We got to be, you know, the provider, the guy that gets all the girls, the guy that gets all the money. So like, emotions don't even have a lot of value. Like, I wonder what that is.
Well, I know for a fact, to me personally, like, this is me speaking from experience, that a lot of the stuff that the lanes and avenues I use to express myself in a toxic way stemmed from childhood traumas, right? A lot of stuff that, for instance, if as a young boy you show emotion and your parents meet you with, stop all that crying, you know what I'm saying? Like, or that's soft, you look really feminine right now, you know, you sound like a little girl, right? All of these are things that are said to children, right? And they in tune, what you say to your children at young ages, no matter how old they are, but at young ages, there are specific ages when children are very impressionable. And what you say over them could either be a curse or a gift, right? And when you tell this boy that he's crying, that he looks and sounds like a little girl, that might push him into an alternate lifestyle.
Right.
You know, no matter what the lifestyle is, you could fill in the blank however you want to, right? But in the case of toxic masculinity, he now feels that as he grows up, he has to suppress all of the feelings that are natural to come to him. As a baby boy, you cry. As a man, you cry. You should be able to cry. And if you're not crying, right, that doesn't mean something is wrong with you, but it also means that you need to take some time to do some like deep dives into what was said to you when you were younger, and stop accepting those things, because you start in tune believing what lies and curses were spoken over you at a young age. So I had to do this for myself. Me and my wife actually had to do this not so long ago. We had to renounce and speak against and not agree with generational curses and words that were spoken over our lives accidentally and on purpose.
Yeah, that's good.
You know?
That's great. That's exactly what you just said. Yeah, when you're a kid, you're very impressionable. Yeah. You know, and also what your parents say, they're your leaders. They're the ones who are over you, you know. And so I think we all, most of us had, you know, parents, you know, who might have talked to us in those different ways, but they didn't understand the power that it had, you know, because I heard the stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. It's like, well, clearly I'm crying about something. I've heard the stop crying like a little girl. You know, I've been a kid watching, like, I remember a time to this day because I still struggle to say the word because I called something cute as a kid. And it was almost like it was girly, you know, because I'm watching like America's Funniest Home Videos and I'm like, oh, that's cute. You know, even to like an animal or a dog or something, I don't know. And it was like, don't say that. You know, like it's like shut it off immediately. So you feel these natural things and it's like, don't do that. You know, don't cry because it makes you look like this, you know? And if you're not, like I said earlier, if you're not in this battle for I'm the manliest man, then you're not really a man at all. And so you grow older and you kind of learn what a man is. And I think, you know, I moved out here young, you know, I moved away from my family. So I didn't really grow up and walk out the whole adult manly thing with my dad present. I walked it out here. And I found Jesus immediately too, within like a year or two of being here. And so I've learned a lot about what a man is, I guess, naturally in that progression. You know, you get put in situations where you have to stand up on your own 2 feet. You have to rise to the occasion. And then you look at how Jesus lived and how he walked. And, you know, many might call him, he might not look like the normal man that everybody thinks, like, oh, that's the manliest man out there. But I learned about, you know, love and humility from him. I've also learned about authority and assertiveness from him. And so even when we talked about controlling earlier, I always thought about that too, you know, how men can be controlling with women. And so I almost went all the way on the opposite end to where I didn't really have a voice too much. And so now I'm learning, like, you can have a voice and be confident and be a leader. You know, a man should be a leader. You should be a protector. You should be a provider. You can be all those things. But what makes a real man to me is obviously submission to God, submission to Jesus. So that humility first, because he can be your real leader. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm learning about it. Yeah.
Well, y'all expressed. I'm gonna go ahead and do mine. I have a story. I remember, and Tay, you probably know about this, but I feel like when I used to dress myself as a kid, it was a terrible idea. But it was a terrible idea. Now it's great. Praise the Lord. But
it's wonderful.
It's frying me.
Absolutely.
Oh God.
But I used to just kind of put anything on. I didn't care how it fit. I didn't care how it looked. It was just like, if I thought that this is how, Tay, you are looking so funny right now. You know, this is how I wanted to show up. And there was an individual in the family that thought that my outfit looked girly. So he said, "Why you got that on? You look like a girl." And I'm laughing, and that's a defense mechanism. But it shattered me for real. Oh, because I looked up to this person so much, and it shattered me. And I can remember, like, you know, obviously there was some healing that had to happen with that person, but it changed the way that I dressed for years. And you know, obviously, I didn't look good anyway back then. So, like, the person wasn't wrong, right? They were wrong for what they said, but they weren't wrong for what, you know, they were wrong for how it was received to me. But, like, you know, it needed to change. Right.
Yeah,
Delivery,
delivery.
yeah.
Because you could have just been like, hey, man, you know.
Let's try something.
Hey, like, I'm going to take you shopping.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, like, why can't we have, like, healthy communication man to man? Like, why is it always got to be, oh, I'm picking on you, or, oh, I gotta make fun of you, I got to make you less than. That's a big thing. But it's part of that I'm manlier. And people don't even know that they're doing it with kids. But it makes them feel more like a man when they can even put a kid down. Oh, you got, because I don't know what that person had going on. And maybe, you know, he could have been projecting something onto me. That's a big problem as well when you're growing up and these people are projecting something on you.
Real.
And so you might not even be doing anything wrong. You saying that, you know, a video is cute has nothing to do with, like, sexuality. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But if somebody is battling that in their head, they say it to you, you weren't even supposed to receive that. That's their own thing going on. So you gotta rebuke that. You gotta pray against that. But I just went on a tangent. What I was trying to say was, it changed the way that I dressed for years, and dressing is how I express myself. And it took a long time to, like, really realize, oh, that was the start of something, and I had to undo it. So now, you know, I do feel free to, you know, wear what I want. There are certain things that I just don't wear because maybe in the back of my mind I still have that comment, you know, and that's why there's so much power in your words. If y'all haven't watched that podcast, it's amazing. Because you don't know. Watch your mouth now. But you don't know, like, there are things that you can say to somebody 15 years ago that still lingers in their head and affects their decision making. And I feel like that's probably what a lot of people are going through as men and women. Because if something has been told to us and we think that that's not, you know, we don't think that it's acceptable, we're never going to do it again. So even when we start talking about, like, emotions and stuff again, you're saying, oh, you know, people said if you're crying, or, oh, you're acting like a girl. Right. You don't think that's acceptable, so you just you shut off everything that could potentially get that same reaction. Yeah, exactly. And that's not healthy in no way, shape, or form. Yeah.
It's so interesting too how, like, you know, because I feel like a lot of that stuff, the toxic masculinity things, is projected from, like, the older generation. But I'm trying to figure out, like, when did crying, like you said, it's something natural. When we come out of the womb, we're everyone's crying. Doesn't matter, no matter what gender you are, everyone is crying for the most part, unless you didn't cry. I mean, every once in a while. But anyway, like, how is that considered feminine? Like, who decided that this is feminine? That's girly. Like, I think like little things like that are so weird. Like the color pink, that's girly. Like, who said? Like, who said that? Like, where did they get that from? I always think about that too. You know what I mean? Like, as you know, because I'm really, really grateful. I feel like us, you know, as people, as human beings, as a society, I do think that we've grown a lot with the toxic masculinity stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But I do just be like, where in the world was y'all getting this stuff that y'all was like getting at? Like, it doesn't. Like, some of it literally doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
It's
right.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I just be thinking about it sometimes. I'm just like,
Yeah. Well, I like to always remember, like, that's a great what you just said about the older generations. That's why we have to assess, like, what do we want to carry on?
Right.
Like, every
Right.
generation has to be like, all right, do I want to continue the lineage like this? You know, is this a legacy I want to continue talking like this, acting like this? You know, in this family, we do it like this. You know, the men in this family are like this. We're only a couple generations away from like some really hard times. Like
Right.
our parents, you know, the parents before them and the parents before them, you got like the civil rights and then you got like the Great Depression. Like we're not far, and then slavery. We're not far from like some really hard times. So there's like our adults and our generations haven't always had a lot of time to heal and to truly like stop and assess and be like, I want to be better in this area for my kids' sake. You know, sometimes it was just hard. It was just tough for them, and so they carried that. And so, because I even think about it, like with my dad, the way that, you know, he parented us was the best way he knew how, and he did amazing. So, you know, emotionally might not have been, you know, certain things that, you know, you might think is the most healthy, but like he was just making it, you know, and he provided and he did what he had to do. And his dad, you know, the way his dad talked to him was a whole different story.
Yeah,
So we got a way different version.
We're lucky.
And my dad, we're lucky. And then, you know, how his dad grew up, you know, was even tougher. You know what I mean? So we do have to give grace for that, but then also we have to understand, you know, where it comes from. I don't want to carry this. I don't want to go on like this also.
Yeah.
So it's not just like because he talked to me like that, you know, that's how it is.
Right,
It doesn't have to be.
Mhm. That's important because we cannot bring some of those traditions over. Like we just, if you've been hurt by something, if you've been hurt by a dad, you know, it doesn't have to be a dad, but hurt by anybody and it hurts your sense of masculinity or femininity. Don't do that to the same person just because that's what you experienced, or don't do that to your kids. Don't do that to anybody else because, you know, maybe you were allowed to experience that because you have a tool to like be able to change that for somebody else. So don't just kind of go along with it and just make it a part of your reality. Change it. If it hurt you, something has to be fixed. And because of that hurt, you have an unction and a desire to fix it. Trying to figure out how to segue into this last question. That's good. Mariah, do you have anything to share too? I want to make sure everybody gets a chance.
Right. I'm just thinking about men doing the work, but I'm trying to think of like how to put it into words right now, but it hasn't come up yet. What's the last question?
How has toxic masculinity affected you guys?
Okay, so my dad was very masculine. I have 4 brothers. And growing up, it's so funny because my 2 younger brothers, they always fight, like play fight, right? And my dad's ex-wife, she would always say like, this is kind of out of hand. And she looked into it and it was like, it says that it builds their confidence. So I've been around a lot of men that like to fight. And when I'm thinking about it, and you guys are all talking about how men puff up and do that, when I used to fight, that's what I was doing. It's like copy and paste what I would see. And because I looked up to my brothers so much, like if one was started listening to a different genre of music, I'd be listening to that genre of music. One of them picked up playing guitar, so did I. One of them started skateboarding, so did I. So men have such an influence on women, especially when we're younger. And I think that if you are just more intentional, if men are just a little bit more intentional about being aware that we are all watching, because it's not just women that are watching, it's also men, younger boys are watching. If you're just a little bit more intentional about your, influence, I think that would make a world of a difference.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
the question was, how has toxic masculinity affected like me personally? Yeah. So I think, earlier I kind of talked about, having a lot of very masculine men in my family. And part of that masculinity, I think I said this earlier, I think too, was a little bit of controlling. So I used to see, and so sometimes I would attract men that were controlling, and then it caused me to kind of like have this warped view of men, like all men are controlling. I don't like that. So then I would, or then I would try and like find the opposite of controlling. So I would go like for like somebody that was more like passive, you know what I mean? Which is not, you know what I mean? Which is tough too, you know, because it's like one end of the spectrum to the other one. So I think that it's definitely just, I don't know. I think I've had to like balance it out. I don't know.
No, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think what's important about that is to know that when you're in a situation with someone that's toxic male, it's not for nothing. Because what God does in those situations is when you face another person that has that same type of toxicity, your senses, your discernment is so heightened that you're like, oh, heck no, I am not about to deal with that.
Yeah.
I am not about to deal with that. So it was a lesson, you know?
For sure. For sure.
Okay, closing thoughts. Actually, quick question.
Yeah.
This is for us. What steps have we taken to embrace the men that we are instead of folding into this toxic masculinity mold?
Staying the heck off of Instagram.
There you go.
For real. 'Cause that
Staying-
comparison be doing it.
Listen, dog.
It be doing it.
Yeah.
Like, and this ties into like my final thought, right? Man, men, I used to get mad. I had like a fire for like men treating women right, like when I was younger. I still do, right? But I now know that every battle ain't my battle to fight.
Amen.
There were some situations that came up where I was just like, I know these guys personally, right? And I see what they're putting out on social media, and they're luring women in based off of a facade that they're putting up. And then they get mad because those women don't want to choose them. But what they was putting out was a lie. They basically got exposed
Yep.
saying, this is what I have to offer. The woman says, oh, well, let's see about it. I don't have that to offer. And then that turns into, man, I ain't like that girl, no way. No, all women this. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yo, bro, if you would have just put out your authentic self, you would have attracted someone that really liked who you are, you know? So, yeah, man, I think staying away from past circles that influenced me to move a certain type of way, and detoxing from like social media, music, because these things project, like there are like literal spells and curses being said in music
Let's talk about it.
that make you feel a certain way. So detoxing, fasting from all of that stuff, and being around healthy males.
Yeah.
Being around healthy males for
That's
sure.
good, yeah. You talk about music, that's hilarious.
Bro,
Because you
for
listen to
real.
certain music, you want to fight.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, if a fight
got
should
one in my
present
head right
itself,
now.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I know a couple songs.
Oh,
I wish
yeah.
somebody would.
Yeah, so
right
that's
now.
funny because those are those men who have that perspective or that emotional capacity or whatever. Social media, music, and then just getting the new vision of what a man is from God is what I'm doing. You
Absolutely.
know, I obviously have great examples in my life. You know, my dad's also a great example. Great examples of men in my family for sure. But then just who am I? You know, what does that look like for me? And then letting God show me what a man is too.
Yep.
Because there's men all throughout the Bible that do not look like the men in my life also, but they were still in the Bible for a reason. You know, they're still men that God built, you know, and so I don't know. It's just something I think you're learning. I don't want to say you're always learning how to be a man, but I think it's something I'm still learning a little bit what
I
it
am.
fully looks like. Yeah, you'd say so?
I'm always
Yeah.
learning how to be. If I
Never stop.
don't take time to sit and learn who I need to be in this season, I can't show up for y'all. I can't show up for me, and
Yeah.
for sure I can't show up for her.
That's facts.
You know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she changes every season, right? And if I'm not changing, she won't know what's supposed to be next.
Yeah.
God gives me a word. God gives us a word. If I'm not who I'm supposed to be as a man and consistently surrendering what I think to be a man, I'm not going to be able to show up as her man. You feel me?
Yeah.
So,
A bar.
praise
That's
God.
great. Yeah.
I guess I would just say like for the men that have been like caught up in like, you know, or I think I like something that you said talking about like how they put up a certain like facade to like lure women in, and then when they got to know that person that they weren't even what they were putting out there. I would just encourage like every female needs something different. Like, you know, if you're a single male, like really just like you're not going to be able to actually, if you're putting on a facade, you're never going to attract the right person that's for you. So I would just really, really encourage you to like, yeah, like shed off all that toxic stuff, man. Because then you know what I mean. Because you want to be able to be authentic enough and attract the person. Yeah, attract the person that really, really wants to be with you and that really, really wants you. Even when it comes to like friendships and stuff, you want to be able to truly, truly attract those people that you genuinely connect with and not that connect with the facade of you. So I think, yeah, just really, really being the man that you are, not what this looks like and not what that looks like. Just like being the man that you are, so that you can attract the right people to you that really, really love who you actually are.
Right.
Because you're never gonna, if they fall in love with the facade of you, you're gonna feel alone. You're gonna feel like no one actually knows you and they don't really, like, they don't love the real you because you're not showing it. So I would just really, really encourage you to just be the man that you are, not the man that you think you should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. That's part of my final statement. Like, I think that we put so much emphasis on being like this status quo man when it's really just about being an individual. The manliest thing that you can do is be your authentic self boldly.
Yes.
Yes.
There's no pinpoint definition. We are individuals. So that's how you learn how to be a man. What is my identity? Be the real you.
Yes.
I love that. And you'll attract the right people that are going to love you and support you in your manliness, in your individuality. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a crowd. This was a great conversation.
This
I
was
actually really enjoyed it. I
There
loved
could be
I
a
love
part two in here somewhere. I don't know. I don't know if it is going to be straight up about masculinity, but just this whole identity conversation and like things that we have to break from the standard of and just embrace who we are.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
I love it.
But hope y'all enjoyed it as much as we did. I know I was blessed. Also, real quick, we have a Generation 1 night happening on July 28th. I am so excited. It's going to be right here in Los Angeles at 1LA. There's going to be a bunch of details on the screen. I don't know how much I can say, but there's going to be some crazy stuff happening. So get in the room. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.